Greetings and salutations, my fellow Illumineers. It is me, your boy JDZ, and I'm back at you again with another Lorcana video. The North American Continental Tournament is still underway, but I thought I'd take some time to go over the top 16 deck lists from that event. And oh my goodness, what an event it has been so far. Incredible. The stars really came out and they overperformed in this tournament. There are so many unique and interesting storylines, but I can't go over them all right now. But I just want to cover the top 16 deck lists and give you guys some of my thoughts and opinions on those deck lists and how they may affect you going into the next store set championship. So before we hop in, make sure you go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel and get into the comment section and let me know if you want to see more videos like this in the future. Okay, hopping on in. Before we go into the top 16 deck lists, I quickly want to go over that day one metagame and talk about the deck list that the players submitted. Again, huge shout out to all of these players for even being invited to this tournament, to include all the last chance qualified players who went in there and got in that last minute and they participated in this tournament as well. I just want to point out some things that I thought would happen and some things that really shocked and surprised me just from the day one. Again, Ruby Sapphire coming in at 32% of the field. I knew it would be probably the most played deck, but taking over a third, almost a third of the entrants, I did not think that deck would come in that strong, and it came in very strong. Amber Steel being that number 2 deck at 18%, 22 players brought it. I know there are two versions of it, so maybe you can split that up into two different things, but still, Amber Steel had a very strong showing. One of the things that jumped off the page at me is the Emerald Steel numbers. I thought those numbers would be a little bit higher in this national tournament with a smaller field, and I know a lot of players qualified on this strategy. A lot of players play this strategy, but 10 players bringing it, I still think that is, I think that's still a little bit surprising to me. Blurple also having a very good representation, I thought was pretty surprising, but still pretty cool. Hopping into the top 16 deck list, finishing at the 16th place in Swiss, we have Philip Aceline playing the Ruby Sapphire strategy. And if you thought the Ruby Sapphire strategy was going to be going away anytime soon, guess what? You are incorrect. Ruby Sapphire is here and it is here to stay. It is the most dominant and present deck in our entire game right now in this set 6. So if you're not prepared for it, definitely have a plan for it. Definitely be ready to engage with it, because it is going to be a perennial powerhouse, and it still is, and it was heavily represented here. Here's the deck that Felipe brought, and it looks really cool. It looks pretty standard, pretty regular. There are some text, there are some twists that they kind of threw in here. We got the Mulan. I like seeing that Mulan in there at that 4-drop uninkable. Your inkable cost, your inkable slots are at a premium in this deck, but you decided to use one on this Mulan, and I don't absolutely hate it, because against those aggressive matchups, which is your worst matchup, you can ramp on 2, play Mulan on 3, and then you can take down a Daisy Duck and it will survive. So that has immense value in itself. You're also playing the Lady Tremaine in the deck. It's another inclusion that you really don't see. Lady Tremaine, I think, is in a great spot in this meta, and I think all these players diagnosed that and they brought it in. Some more tech. You're playing this Ruby Chromacon. I think this Ruby Chromacon card is super interesting, along with this Shield of Virtue. There are other items that Hiram can pop in a pinch and Tamatoa can bring back, but still, I think just maybe in those niche situations, you can have those techs and they can help put you over the top. Who knows how good they were, but I have noticed in a trend, looking at these top 16 deck lists and looking what these top players are doing, you'll notice that they have these little twists. It's rarely that it's going to be super just standard all the way through and through. There's always going to be these little wrinkles, these little twists that they can add to give themselves that much more of some type of advantage over their opponent. But we're going into top 16. The deck lists are open, so maybe that maybe the surprise factor is going to be gone. But huge shout out to you, Felipe, and keep rocking and rolling. All right, moving on. At the 15th seed, we have Justin Shaft playing the Amber Steel strategy. This is more of the diggy hole variety. I'm sure you guys have all heard of the diggy hole. Shout out to DeCandio for popularizing this deck after a win at the CCS. But now we're here at the top 16 and this deck is here. Obviously, you know this deck is really strong. Obviously, you know this deck is very consistent. It is super aggressive, low to the ground, but it does have the ability to kind of range out some people too. So I think this deck is super strong. It is very consistent. It is a nice, clean and crisp 2-line strategy. Whenever you got a nice clean 2-line deck, that means you're going to hit the plays that you want more often, I think, because your deck is going to be very consistent. You're not playing the Ketis, you just added that Gantu in there for just a little bit more lore pressure, and you're just trying to rush get aggressive, but you also can do some controlling elements with the removal. And if you manage those mines correctly with the dwarves, you can have a little bit additional removal there and some auxiliary lore. You got Calhoun in here too. I think this deck is cool. This deck might seem easy to use, but it's actually it's not as intuitive as you might believe. So if you're trying to sleeve up a deck like this to take it to set championships, I would really proceed with caution, and I would give it some reps before you go in there and give it a shot. But still, cool deck. Great performance from Justin Schaff and keeping the diggy dream alive. I think this deck can actually play pretty well into the Ruby Sapphire stuff, depending on draw play and how the matchup goes. But I think it's not the it kind of answered a lot of the questions that the more typical Amber Steel strategy kind of falters into the Ruby Sapphire. All right, but again, shout out to you, Justin Schaff with the diggy hole. Love to see it. Okay, moving on to the 14th seed, we have Patrick Cote. Patrick Cote is playing the Amethyst Steel strategy. So another steel, more Amethyst Steel. I didn't know if the Amethyst Steel deck would make a conversion into the top 16. Speaking of conversions into the top 16, you had 2 Amethyst Steel decks. I did not think that Amethyst Steel had what it took to make it the distance, but I guess it did, and I was wrong. So that is something that I got wrong. And you're playing this Amethyst Steel. You got the 12 1-drops. You got the Snake. You got the Calhoun. You got the 4 Docks. This deck is really powerful. It is a powerhouse of a deck. It can get super aggressive, super low to the ground. In terms of tech, you really don't have a lot of tech in here. This one is more straightforward. It's just going to come out, punch you down, punch you in the face, and try to get the game over pretty quick. But if it goes long, you can start doing some stuff with these crabs. You can do some stuff with these Elsas. You can do some stuff with this Bell. You can start bouncing. You just have to get crafty and continue to try to generate advantage through your craftiness. But I don't know if you can plus pretty well with these 1-cost can't rip guys too. I think the deck is quite cool. This is a deck that I think I'm interested in trying. I don't think I've ever played Amethyst Steel, and I want to give it a shot. Maybe I'll load this deck myself and give it a shot. But Patrick Cote, huge shout out to you again. What do you guys think of this deck? I think it's pretty neat, still pretty standard, still pretty regular. You got the white rose in there for a little bit of closing factor. Anything else jumping off the page? Nothing really. But the deck is still quite cool. Amethyst Steel is going to be there. Okay, moving on. All right, moving on to the 13 seed. Lucky number 13, we have Sailor Pierre-Marc Duguay. Dugway. Pierre-Marc Duguay. I think I'm saying that right. I'm terrible at pronouncing names, but we'll call him Sailor. That's who you've come to know and love. And this is probably another extremely consistent professional player out here making it to the top 16. I think that is just so impressive. That consistency, being able to go ahead and convert into day 2, doing it the way that you come to know and love, playing the Ruby Sapphire strategy. And this is probably the textbook version of Ruby Sapphire. I think this player has probably tested it to the limits and came up with the most optimized version of what they think the deck should be and how it should look as a sleek 60 card Ruby Sapphire 13 uninkable. I think the deck is cool. Shout out to Sailor. Shout out to the Labyrinth community. Shout out to those to those players, man, because clearly it's quite strong. 2 Ice Block, 2 Vitalis Spear, 4 Popsicle, 1 Lucky Dime is going to be the ratios, with the 1 of Hideaway, 3 of the Big Sisu. So I think, man, I don't know, man. I think this deck is extremely consistent. Maybe this version could struggle a little bit against the aggressive stuff, but maybe the player's skill is going to be able to mediate that and to account for some of the issues that you might have into the aggressive stuff. Because if you look at the other Ruby Sapphire strategies, they are coming up with, they're adding different things in to help counter the aggressive decks. Maybe Sailor's like, hey, the aggressive stuff's not going to be there as much. I want to play for the mirror. I want to play for the control stuff. I want to play for the late game. I want to do my thing, and then hopefully I can lean on my skill in order to counter the aggressive stuff. So maybe that's a thought, maybe that's the approach, but still, I think it's a cool deck, man. I love to see the creativity. I love to see what these guys are out here doing, and I love to see the gamesmanship in the decisions, because you get one shot at this, man. There's no backup plan. There's no redo. You have to send it in, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and you just have to live with it. So he rolled the horse that got him there and absolutely converted into into a day number 2, top 13 seed. And we'll see, maybe he can keep pushing it and get on into a world's qualification, because that's what's on the line. Only 8 players can make it to the world championship from this tournament. So we'll see how it goes. All right, moving on. At that number 12 seed, we have fan favorite, the bald beauty himself, RMB. He did it again. I don't know how he did it. But he switched it up on us and joined the Blurple army. He left the Blue Steel committee and jumped over into the Blurple army, and he represented very, very well, playing this strategy you see on your screen before you at 10-1 cost. We got the Tipo, we have the Hades, we have the Donald Duck, and all the other staples you come to know in Blurple. So we're going 3 Elsa's, 3 Hades. I think that is correct. We are going to be going 1 of Let It Go as your tech against the Ruby Sapphire, and you have the 4 friends on the other side. And man, oh man, this player, I know they've been going through a lot of natural disasters. A lot of things happened before this tournament, and they had to struggle and fight to even make it to this tournament. But now they made it, and then they continue to just press on and have a great result playing a very, very cool deck. One of the things I do want to talk about is this deck that you see here. Blurple for the longest time has been the butt of a lot of jokes. It has been like a meme, and you're playing Blurple, and Blurple is not real. It's not a real deck. Guess what? Those days are over. Blurple is a tier 1 meta threat, and if you're not ready for it, you will lose. This deck is very, very good. It is the best Genie deck. It is the Genie deck. It is a deck that can play Genie sooner than everyone else. So if you're thinking that Blurple is some kind of buy or some kind of free joke, guess what? There are 2 Blurples in the top 16 of one of the most premier events that has ever existed in this game. So that only indicates that how good this deck is and how consistent it can be, and you need to look out for it. So if you're not prepared to play against Blurple, or if you're not looking out for what they're trying to do, you're going to have a hard time in a lot of these events that you're going to be playing in, because if it can have success here on the national stage, certainly it can have success on the local level or on the store championship level. So look out for Blurple. I think it's real. It is definitely this is not a drill. It's here, and it's here to stay. So again, it's not just a deck, it is the player. RMB is a phenomenal, fantastic, strong player, and he definitely represented himself well. So maybe if he keeps it going, he does have some pretty decent matchups in the top portion as well. So these Blurple players could potentially go on and make it to a world's invite. So we'll be excited to see that. So stay tuned and see if they can keep it going. But I think the deck is very competent. This deck can do a lot of cool things, and it's super quick, and it's very consistent. So I'm definitely gonna be trying Blurple myself. So look out for that, and I'll be interested to see how this thing shakes out for our Blurple committee going into day 2. Coming in, not finishing at number 1 seed, we got MrBiven coming in at the 11th seed. Zach Bivens kept it alive, did not go back to the Amber Steel strategy, elected to stick with the Amethyst Steel strategy. So we did have 2 Amethyst Steel decks in the top 16, 2 Blurple decks, so Amethyst Sapphire decks, Sapphire Amethyst decks in the top 16, and I think that's incredible. Purple is the way to go. Amethyst is the color of the format, it seems. We just got the 11 1-drops in there. We got the Smee. Again, these decks is not a lot you can do. You are playing the 4 Long Came Zeus, 4 Strength of Radiant Fire. You do have the Lawrence in there, and you have the talented Mr. Smee, but the deck, you can't really do a lot to it in terms of tech. It's not a lot of wiggle room you can make there. It's kind of like a tempo. It's kind of like almost an aggressive deck, so you can't really make too many sweeping changes to it, but the deck is very consistent. This does look very similar to the deck that MrBiven brought to the LCCC, and I'm glad to see they really enjoyed that and maybe felt it was good enough and consistent enough to take to this tournament, and it proved to be correct because they made it to a day 2 performance, which is all you can ask for and more than most people deserve out here. So Amethyst Steel, also another deck that is real. Okay, a lot of times people are like, oh man, this deck is it's not this, it's not that, this deck is fake, it's just this, it's a meme, whatever. No, Amethyst Steel is real, Blurple is real. You guys better look out for it and be ready for it because they're going to be around, and I can already attest to that. Amethyst Steel is played very, very heavily. Okay, moving on, we have Sha Leong coming in at that number 10 seed, playing another Amber Steel deck, and this one's a little bit different, a little bit retro, old meets new. This is like more of the classic Steel Song, the more structured Steel Song, the kind of the more traditional Steel Song deck that you're used to seeing. And it even went even further, hearkening to the past even more. You're going into the Queen Shift line. I like to see that Queen Shift come back. I don't think it was as bad as people made it out to be. People made it seem like Queen Shift was just completely unplayable. You're not playing Robin Hood Shift, you're playing Queen Shift. You can sing Whole New World as soon as turn number 2. You can play Queen 1-on-1, shift Queen on 2, sing. That's pretty impressive. I think that's quite cool, and that could throw a lot of people off of their game, off of their tempo, especially if they haven't had the opportunity to ramp yet and blow up their hand. And now you have a little bit of advantage, and you have this high cost 2-quester on the field. I think the card is quite good. You're still rocking the daisies. You still have turn 1 Cindy, which is one of the strongest plays you can make. You have the Ariel. You have the Gaston in there, which is a very cool card. A lot of people are sleeping on Gaston. He's an unbrawlable singer, so pretty much when you put him on the field, you can almost guarantee that he's going to get that song off, and I think there's something in that security. So I think this deck is quite cool as well. You're also teched in the Ariel Sonic Singer, so you can shift onto your own area and really just start bringing the pain, start blowing things up. We saw that happen. I believe this deck was featured on stream a few times, and we saw that Ariel Sonic Warrior coming out, just absolutely just removing all kinds of stuff. You can wheel pretty confidently, and even if your opponent does swarm the board on their next few turns, Ariel can come back in and just start removing all those cards with that ability, man. So you're singing and you're pinging, and it's just really, really cool to see. World's Greatest Criminal Mind. I'm still not completely sold on that card, honestly. I've seen it's burned me in the past before, and when it's good, it's great, and it's always going to be inkable. But sometimes it's just gonna just sit there, and it probably worked out for Sean. I'm sure they've had some great value. Getting that Tamatoa off your case is probably super important, as your worst matchup is going to be that Ruby Sapphire strategy. And as I stated, it's all over the place. So maybe that is the correct call to make. Put those World's Greatest Criminal Minds in there. I think the card's great. I think the deck is cool, and I like to see Amber Steel doing its thing as well, man. A lot of cool stuff. A lot of cool stuff happening in this tournament, man. Love to see it. Love to absolutely see it. Moving on, coming in at the 9th seed, you have DLC champion Zan Sayed. Back at it again with another top performance. How does he do it? How does he do it? How does he stay so consistent? I don't know, but whatever he's drinking, I need to take a sip, because he's back at it again on the patent pending Emerald Steel strategy. Just when you thought it was over, just when you thought it was dead, he comes back at it again and does it one more time with the Emerald Steel, keeping this deck alive. And you know what? For my own selfish reasons, I'm glad he did, because a lot of people are going to see that he did, and they're going to copy what he tried to do, and they're going to do it, and they're going to get cooked, because this deck seems very, very difficult to use. This deck seems super complicated. It's not straightforward as you might think it might be. You're going to load it and you're going to get absolutely body rocked. 4 Prince Johns is something that you're going to have to take some skill to get used to. You have the four Prince Johns, 4 Hypnotize. There's going to be issues there. You have to know exactly what you're going to be putting down in the inkwell. You're going to know exactly what you put onto the field, and it's going to be it's not going to be an easy journey. That's the reason why there's only one Emerald Steel strategy in this top cut of this tournament, is because you got to be built a certain kind of way in order to pull this thing off. But it looks like you elected to get it a little bit more aggressive. You got the Calhouns in there, you have the Go-Go in there, you have the Cursed Merfolk are in there, questing for 2, ripping 1 from the hand. Pretty neat. You have the 4 of Diablo, obviously 4 of Pete Muses, and 4 Hypnotize. That's one that I would have issues with, because I think Hypnotize is it's a high skill card, and you will lose a lot of tempo playing it. So you have to make sure you put it out at the exact right moment, or that just playing a Hypnotize at the wrong time could just lose you a game some of the time. 4 Sudden Chill. We're going to go 4 of I'm Still Here, and this is another card that I think is great. This is a phenomenal card, and a lot of green steel players should adopt this card, because Ursula double singing I'm Still Here onto a Diablo is just going to turn that thing into a battering ram sometimes, when you can put it into the hidden cove. Now you got a 3 cost guy that's just not questing. He's actually taking stuff out, and then you can't take it back out. No steel removal can get through a double resist Diablo in the cove. It's just going to be pretty much invulnerable at that point. So he's going to be sitting there, and you're drawing, and you're also drawing 2 cards as well. So it's definitely something to think about. Even if you go Ursula Sing, double Sing, I'm still here on herself. It'll just keep it around. You'll get to draw 2 cards, and that's just more resources coming your way. And I think that's an incredible tech. I know a lot of players have been kind of experimenting with a deck very similar to the one you see on your screen, but it seems pretty solid and consistent. So I'm looking forward to see if this will kind of start to reshape this green steel strategy. I know it's been kind of down in the dumps, but maybe something like this can bring it back, or maybe it won't. We'll see. But again, huge shout out to Zan. I can't say enough about this player and about their consistency and how they have managed to they already got the world's qualification already based on their performance throughout the season. So if they are to continue to have success in this tournament, there will be a pass down, but still just having that consistency and just saying, I'm gonna come in and play this deck and just make a deep run. I think that's very, very impressive. So I'm going to say about that. Moving on to our second Blurple enthusiast, we have Joseph Quigley playing the Blurple strategy, very similar to the other Blurple deck that we saw RMB using in the coming in at that 12th seed, but you're going to be in the 8th seed. Again, Blurple, super duper strong. You're going to be rocking the 3 Hades double Big Elsa, not the triple Big Elsa, and you're going to include the one of Finders Keepers. That probably is going to be for that Ruby Sapphire. When the games go long, you just need another card. You got all ink you could ever use, and you just need to find something to kind of close the game out, or maybe get something off the field. Boom, you got the Finder's Keeper. That's a straight up raw draw 3, along with the 4 of Friends on the other side and the 3 of McDuck Manor. I think this deck is tech to beat Ruby Sapphire, and I'm pretty sure that he's going to have a pretty decent time doing that. Honestly, I don't want to be wrong, but I think this deck has this composition of this deck has to have a pretty good matchup into Ruby Sapphire, just based on the cards and how the games tend to go. You have the 4 Elsa 1 Belle. You have the 2 Flatfoot Detective. I love that card as well. All right, so cool, man. I love seeing more Blurple. How do you beat Blurple? We need to come up with more I can't believe we're living in a world where we have to come up with the anti-Blurple tech. But that's a word I want to live in. I like it. I personally like it. Okay, moving on. We have the 7th seed. We have Matthew Akimoto playing another Ruby Sapphire strategy. Matthew Akamoto playing another Ruby Sapphire strategy. The text you got in here, you have the little Sisu, the little hand of Sisu, probably good against aggro. We have the 2 of Prince John. Very interesting include into this deck to get your items back. You do have quite a few items down there in the item area, and you're going to mark and bypass some of your Grandma Talas, which I thought was one of the stronger cards in this deck. You're going to take those out, and you're going to put the Prince Johns in. Very interesting. Prince John, he's a bit slow, and they do come in exerted when he does bring them back, but in those late grindy mirror matches, that is just going to be value. He cannot be Sisu'd unless you have the ice block. He can be Medusa'd, but he is at 3-4. For some reason, he's that buff. That's crazy. 3-4 is a wild stat line, so you can be able to challenge down some of the aggressive stuff. And you can ramp on to bring him out and start using that ability early. If you start popping some popsicles, get him back, just to keep cycling cards, I think seems good. It seems good. I've never tried it, but in theory, it seems good. And I love to see these players continuing to just push that envelope and just trying things, abandoning conventional wisdom and just trying things and having results. I think that's very important in this game. Again, you have a lot of items in here. You have the Shield of Virtue. You have the Vitalis Sphere. You have the ice blocks, you have the popsicle, you have the Great Stone Dragon, you have the Lucky Dime, but only and Prince John can bring most of those back. So when you hire him out, he's popping stuff. Prince John's bringing it back. Tamatoa is out. He's popping stuff. Prince John can bring it back. I think there is some synergy there, and I think that is quite cool. 4 of Maleficent Dragon, 3 of Sisu. 3, be prepared. Love to see it. Pirate's Life, rocking and rolling. Moving on to the number 6 seed. We have another Ruby Sapphire strategy by Sean Brandt. It looks very similar, minus the Prince John. We got 3 of Little Sisu, 4 of Big Sisu, 3 Maui Shark. Okay. So you're trying to I guess your answer to the aggressive stuff is to just play the Sisu, shift the Sisu, play the Maui, rush down the board, and then you got the Pirates, just 2 of Pirates left, which seem getting closer and closer to what I would call standard. You have the 2, how many? But you're only playing 2 of Be Prepared, since you're playing the 3 ice blocks for Sisu variety. Again, man, Ruby Sapphire. I've said it. You guys see it. There's not a lot of movement, but they do have a certain amount of tech. Maybe you're just taking it towards your own play style. No one's going to know exactly what the 100% right answer is of what the super standard of the deck is going to be, but I would prepare to play against a variety of different things and just be on the lookout of what you can kind of run into when you start seeing these decks, when you start seeing these decks come around, because they can do a lot of different things, but you kind of have an idea of the limitations that the deck can have. But again, huge shout out to you, Sean. I think it's cool. I like Ruby Sapphire. No, I don't. I'm lying, but still, I don't like playing. I like Ruby Sapphire. I just don't like playing against it. But still, I think the deck is quite good. 3 Grand Matala is another interesting little wrinkle there. Okay, moving on to the 5th seed. And this is probably my favorite deck in the top 16. I think this deck is very cool. I think this deck is doing some really cool things out here. As DLC champion, Edmund Chu, aka Ed. You guys know him. You guys love him as Ed. And he's playing another Ed special, another 2-liner out here with just maxed out on most things, 4s across the board. 2 lines means consistency. And you are just cutting some things that a lot of people hold near and dear to their heart in this set 6 metagame. I looked at this deck list. I thought I was going blind there for a second because I didn't see the genie. There is no genie in this deck. You elected not to play it. Everyone's talking about how broken and busted and just how format destroying genie is. You're like, I'm not even going to use the thing. Just get him out of there. You're not playing any Madame Medusa as well. You're playing quad Lady Tremaine. Okay, so you are playing 4 ladies, but you're only playing 4 of the same lady, and I think that is an interesting and amazing call. 4 Lady Tremaine is, no one's going to see that coming, especially in a closed deck list open field. No one will ever see a 3rd and a 4th Lady Tremaine come down, and especially they just won't see it coming. And a lot of people forget that Lady Tremaine is a Floodborn character, so you can't shift this thing, and you can't shift it on itself. So that can just come up with some very interesting and dynamic plays, especially late down the stretch. You can just use your 12 1-drops that you have and just kind of draw cards and try to control the tempo, control the board as well as you can with your mid-range stuff, your Madam Mims and your Crabs and all that, your Sisu, Flint Sisu. You can do that whole thing. And then when you get to the late game and you start B-prepping and you start getting that ink total up, you can start doing some really, really cool things with these Lady Tremaines and shift them on themselves, bring out a snake, bounce them both back, and just put your opponent right into the blender. Because, yeah, you can play around Lady Tremaine. You can put another small guy out, put a big guy out, and blah, 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 blah. You know it. But how many times can you do that? And every time you put that Tremaine out, something is going to the discard. Bounce it back to your hand, something's going back again, and they can only do that so much. You're going to already be outvaluing them with your 4 rabbits and all of your can't rip draw guys. I think this is a masterpiece. You also have those 4 libraries in there too, which is just incredible. When you put those 1 cost can't rip guys into the library, and now they're drawing 2 when they succumb, I think that is just, I don't know. I think it's really, really strong. This is a very, very strong deck. I would not be surprised if he continued to have a significant showing going through the rest of this tournament, because this is a really, really cool concoction. Also, you have the 2 big shift Sisus in there. You can put those onto your smaller Sisu and help with your Amber Steel matchup, the Diggy Hole stuff, and all of this Steel Song stuff, which is probably one of your worst matchups. You're probably one of your worst matchups. You can bring that shift Sisu in and just dominate the board and take it back over. I think this is an incredible work of art, and I think that Ed is a phenomenal player, and hopefully we can see what he can continue to do with this thing, because no one's doing this. All these decks that you've seen, a lot of stuff are standard, a lot of stuff is regular, but there are some wrinkles and there are some techs that these players are playing, and they are able to gain these advantages. And that's what I love about this game. It's very, very beautiful in that way. Okay, moving on. Huge shout out to you, Ed, DLC champion already. So again, if he continues to have success, there will be another pass down from his invite as well. Already invited to the World Championship, just trying to continue to pad the stats and run up the numbers and get more accolades. So huge shout out to you. Huge shout out to you. Huge shout out to you. And moving on. So everything I said about Ed's deck, completely reverse that. Okay, now we're going into Humza Khan playing the Ruby Sapphire strategy. And a lot of early reports said that the deck had 66 cards. And some other reports said the deck had 68 cards. But I just got a report saying that the deck has 72 cards. Again, he's back on the 72 card special. Again, I cannot confirm this 100%, but these are the decks that were linked into the Top 16 Dreamborn link. I'll put that link in the description so you guys check it out for yourself. But this is the latest iteration of what I've heard that the deck is, and it is a 72 card special. We got a 4 banger out here, 4 lines of cards and a lot of 3-ofs. You have some 1-ofs, you have some text in here, and I think it is really, really cool that this player can do this. So you have the one side of the spectrum is what Ed is doing, the other side of the spectrum is what Humza is doing, and somewhere, who knows what is right? There is no right. It's only what you can do and what you believe is right. But I think this deck is quite cool. You have that new Rush Evasive Goofy in there. Cool card. You have the Queen of Hearts in there. You're playing 3 of those. You have that song Go the Distance is in the deck at 2 copies. And it says, if you don't know what this card does, it says ready a chosen damaged character of yours. They can't quest for the rest of the turn, draw a card. So it is a can't rip. And when your cards are damaged, and they probably will be damaged basically for the half shark, you can go the distance, bring it back, get another hit in with it, and you can sing this thing and have that happen for without using any of your resources. You have 3 how far out goes, 3 dragons, and you have 2 of the Pirate's Life again. Maybe this deck is going into a different theory. You're probably not trying to see all your cards every matchup, but every matchup you're going to see some good cards, and then you just have to rely on your skill in order to put those cards in the right position and just continue to dig through your deck and get the cards you need when you need them to kind of turn your deck into some kind of toolbox, I guess. And maybe that works out. Clearly it works out because you are the 4th seed in a very, very, very prestigious tournament. But 72 cards is what I'm hearing. Again, I could be wrong. So you guys get in there and check it out and let me know what you think. Okay. A huge shout out to Humza again. I believe they have several top performances. I know they finished very highly in seeds multiple times, have golden Mickeys already. So this is incredible. Another incredible consistent player making it to another incredible consistent run, and I absolutely love to see it. Well done. Okay, moving on to the top 3 seed, the number 3 seed. We have Kurt Spies out here playing the Amber Steel strategy again, back on that diggy hole. So we got 2 diggy hole type variants in the top cut, and this one is playing that Chef John Silver, which is a cool card, cool tech, cool chef, cool card, doing some great things. You have 3 of Chi and Po in there. In this economy with Go-Go, maybe you diagnose the North American metagame and realize that green just isn't played in North America too much. It's like, I'm bringing these Chi and Po's back, and they probably had great effects as well. To go along with that Chi and Po, you're also playing the Rapunzel's Tower, which if you put Chi and Po in there, he's now a willpower of 10. He's going to be around for a while if he's sitting there at 10. And you can put all your lower cost guys in there. Your Daisy now goes up to a 7, which is ridiculous. Your Calhoun is just turning into a menace at freaking Calhoun with a 5 resist 1. Calhoun with a 5 resist 1 is insane. I think that's a really, really cool tech, and I think that might catch on. I think Calhoun at a 5 willpower with resist 1 is worth it. It doesn't really gain any residual lore, but still I think it's good enough to be played. You also have the Docs, you also have the Happy, and everything else you come to know love. Cool techs in his deck, man. I bet that worked out greatly for Kurt in his run to that 3rd seed. So 10. Man, oh man, good grief. That is a lot. That is a lot. And Rapunzel can just heal so much better when you have so many tough guys on your side of the field, and your opponent won't be able to quest or challenge, because now you can get tremendous value because your guys are not going to get banished that easy. I think it's something that it's definitely a really cool tech, and I would like to see where that goes. So a huge shout out to you, Kurt, for dropping that heater on us, and we'll see if you can keep rocking and rolling with it. I'll be looking forward to see how that turns out for the rest of the tournament. All right. Moving on to the number 2 seed, we have Scott Markinson, another Ruby Sapphire player. So much Ruby Sapphire, so little time in this top 16. Again, 3 Grandma Tala. Maybe that's the play. Drop Grandma Tala to 3. I always thought Grandma Tala was way, way better, but I guess it is probably one of the more cuttable cards in the strategy. Only 2 be prepared, 4 Sisu. Maybe that's a trend as well. 4 Sisu, 2 be prepared, 3 Ice Block. Maybe that is the standard for Ruby Sapphire. Just one of Queen of Hearts. Just trying to help yourself with the aggressive stuff with 2 of small Sisu. So you're all in on the Sisu, you're all in on the Ice Block, and you are all in on the Dragon, as Maleficent Dragon is going to be there with 3 of How Far Out Goes. Ruby Sapphire rocking and rolling as Scott Markinson is trying to take it down. But now we are coming into the number 1 seed, and the number 1 seed in a very, very cool deck. The only green purple deck to convert. The green purple is here, and you did it in a cool, funky, spicy, techie way. You're playing some really interesting cards in this deck, and it's really cool. I like to see it, man. All these players, man, all these players. There are some standard decks, but there are some really, really cool to see interesting strategies, interesting techs that these players elected to bring to the biggest tournament, and I think that's a spectacle. You are playing the 2 of Olaf, good on the draw, versus the Steel, which is probably your worst matchup, the Steel Song stuff. But now you have a little bit of counter to that. You have some more Kent rips. You're playing a total of, whoa, what is this? You're playing 1, 2, you're playing 4, 8, 10, 13, 15. You're playing 18 one-cost characters. So you can swarm a bit. You can get those cards onto the field, absolutely swarm your opponent, and just start to try to just aggress early. You have some evasive threats. You have that Shift Pegasus line coming back in, which can do some really cool things. Evasive is still going to be tough to deal with. You have those Genies, very evasive, tough to deal with. Sir His, evasive, tough to deal with. Well, not necessarily, but he does have that 3 in the willpower, and he will be able to take out, or excuse me, the 3 in the toughness, and he will be able to take out some other characters that try to challenge him. You have the and another super cool tech. You have that Prince Philip over there with his 3/2 ward quest for 2. It's basically an inkable bonsai, but you have to do it a turn later, and he has ward, so he's probably going to quest every single time. I mean, there's really not a lot you can do to a Prince Philip with ward. He's going to hit the field, and he's going to quest for 2 at a minimum. And then if you go to challenge him, he's probably going to take something down with him because of that 3. And I think that's an interesting include in this deck. It is a bit slower than a bonsai, but that inkability is going to be good, and that ward is actually quite great. So in the late game, if you can hit a powerful go-go turn and do some tremendous damage to your opponent, get their lore up, and then you put this guy out, even if you're top deck him, just slam him onto the field. It's going to be, they might be in an awkward situation where they have to be prepared a really large board, or do something crazy, because they can't Madame Medusa this thing unless they got all these Tremaines, which you see floating around. They can't Ice Block Sisu. They can't really do much. They can't Elsa tap him down. They can't do anything because he's got that ward. So that 2 is coming. He's going to quest, and I think that is a very, very interesting tech. I haven't seen anybody do that too much, man. But huge shout out to you for coming out and having the gumption to bring it, as Morgan Shamblin is going to be rocking and rolling one of the cooler decks. Got the Lyle is back in too. Lyle is such a cool card, very annoying card, but still quite cool. You have the Cloud Kicker in there. Man, what a cool deck. 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 But I just want to do this. This video is a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, but I just like ranting and talk about these things. If you like videos like this, maybe you'll like some other videos I've made, and maybe you'll go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I'll be making more videos like this in the future. I'm so excited to see how the North American Continental is going to conclude, and I'll be watching, so hopefully you guys are watching too. Well, that's all I have for this episode. Until next time, I'm JDZ. I'm on the quest. Shout out to the real ones. Salute to the OGs. Peace.